The key tool to keeping our economy going strong is to get people vaccinated and at work.
That was President Biden yesterday on the private sector's responsibility in fighting the spread of COVID-19. The administration's calling for a third shot this fall for all fully vaccinated adults who received the two-shot regimen previously, citing the threat of the contagious Delta variant surging across the U.S., also complicating return-to-work plans for companies and employees nationwide. For a closer look, let's welcome Tom Gimbel, founder and CEO of national staffing and recruiting firm LaSalle Network, and Sadal Neeley, Harvard business professor, author of The Remote Work Revolution. I'm fascinated, Sadal. Tom, you're on a lot. I want to talk to Sadal first about a lot of this stuff, because you've given this a lot of thought, and you've got 5 mistakes that bosses are going to make. And I don't know how, I found some similarities in all 5, and that is the all or nothing approach that we seem to be taking with this. It used to be one way. We're totally going back to the way it used to be, or we're totally going to adopt all this new stuff that we've done in the pandemic. And neither one is probably going to be the case.
That's exactly right. We are at a time in the world where our routines, our workplaces have been completely upended, and organizations and leaders are trying to figure out, how do we make this predictable and stable? So some of the mistakes that they can make is not listening to their workers who say they want agency, they want flexibility, they like some remote work, and treating them like children, making mistakes and not training people. Now that we're looking at hybrid places, we need to upskill. We all need to level up. And with that will come different outcomes.
One of the mine that I liked, or that at least spoke to me, was reinforcing tech exhaustion, where when people do get back, you're not going to stop doing all the things you're doing. So there's going to be video conferencing stuff that you're still going to do, even though you're in the office. And people are going to be like, no, I don't, you're just sick of those things. So you don't necessarily want to, keep everything that you learned how to do during the pandemic, or use it too much.
That's exactly right. First of all, tech exhaustion, if digital tools are used correctly, should never exist. This is why I devote an entire chapter on this topic. It should not exist when we match the right tools for the right work. But video conferencing will continue to be convening tools within organizations. So if we don't recalibrate and really think through how we're using technologies, how often we're using them, we're kind of reproduce all the things that's been giving us headaches and slurring our words at the end of the day.
So in-person long meetings are bad enough. And then you do it on a video conference, and you're like, I need more money to do that. Tom, I think, another thing Sadal warns about is going back to the butts in seat mentality and butts in seat metric. And the way she explains it is that that's where a lot of corporate managers look around, and they need to see a crowded area. That's how they measure success. People are there till 8. It's still got butts in the seat at 8 o'clock at night, and we're succeeding. And you can't be that way. And I think you're a guy that might be like that.
Let's not go overboard. I'm not 100% old school, but I don't see Harvard switching to 100% remote schooling. I think that what's funny, when kids want to pay, or families want to pay or take out loans, $80,000, $100,000 a year, we want everybody to be together and be at the office and have the collegial experience. When the company pays the employees say, hey, I don't want to come in, I want to work from home. You can't have your cake and eat it too. If we say that you want to be together when you're learning in college together, that's a better, healthier learning experience with students and professors. And it's the same thing in the office. There's a collaboration and a learning that goes together. Now, I do agree with the professor that it doesn't have to be all or nothing, but I think there's also some long-term effects with permanent remote work. I think it affects diversity and inclusion in a negative way. I think it elasticizes the wage gap and the wealth discrepancy that we have in this country. There's a lot of negatives from long-term remote work that people haven't even started to talk about.
How do we get there, Sadal? Will a third vaccine, will another booster help? Or that was how we introed the segment. I guess we need to, with the idea that we do want to eventually at least have the option to bringing people back.
Well, first off, I'm much more optimistic than Tom here about the future of work and the fact that we're actually much more hybrid than people perceive. But in terms of vaccines, the Gartner Group recently conducted a survey with HR leaders across all these companies and found that 70% of employees are very worried about COVID and its transmission from unvaccinated employees. 26% say they will refuse to go back if they don't feel safe. So companies will have to contend with this issue. On the one hand, if you mandate vaccines, you will alienate those who are not interested in vaccinations today. And on the other hand, if you don't take a leadership role with the vaccines, you will alienate all those who are very worried and will refuse to come in. And at the same time, many families, 50 million around the country, have children under the age of 12. People are very worried about those things as well. So this is where work arrangements that are flexible and mandating or not mandating or mask rules have to be at the forefront of leaders' minds.
Tom, what do you think of that? Vaccines, you want to do that, require that booster?
Yeah. Number one, I'm extremely optimistic about this country, about the workforce, about the labor market. We have record lows on unemployment. So please don't ever mistake my realism for pessimism, because those are not the same. I'm very optimistic about it. I think we should be having vaccines. What I think is the definition of the inmates running the asylum is similar to what Biden said. I love Gartner, but polls also predicted that Hillary Clinton beat Donald Trump. We can't always apply what polls are saying to what reality is. And I'm on the ground with people who are going in for jobs at staff level positions in call centers and IT and marketing and HR, up through managers and directors from small and medium sized businesses. And I'm telling you that people need the collaboration. We have these two intersections of seclusion and being alone and wanting all these things. And what companies have to do is what they feel is right. We have a choice in this country, and you can go work for any company that will hire you if you're marketable. But believe me when I say this, is that if you have people working remotely, it will be terrible for the average worker, because they will not be pushed or challenged by working in the same room with peers. And superior people will excel, and it will spread the wage gap to places we've never seen before. It is totally negative.
I like when people shake their head, because I'd like to hear more.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.